Meeting of the Conservation Commission to order, and let's start with the protocol of the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And roll call for attendance. And how about we also combine roll call with attendance by way of introduction? So if we can start with Brian, you can say who you are, what's your constituency to bring you here, and something else about your interest or background or the catalyst for you being here on Conservation Commission.
Well, I'm Brian Ward. I am the Town Council rep for the Conservation Commission. I'm a non-voting member, but so you won't hear me making motions, but I'll be here. I'm here. I picked this because one of the things I thought was really great about Newmarket is that it has so much natural beauty. So, and also they made me join commissions. So I said, you know what, why not?
We're taking that as a vote of confidence. Yes. You picked the cool
Yes,
commission.
I chose. Yes, they gave me a list like pick one. It's like I like turtles.
Thank you, Brian.
All right, I'm Luke Fromm, recently appointed as an alternate member, soon to be applying to be a full member of the commission. It's fun for first meeting to just jump up level right away. But so I recently moved to Newmarket back in March. Work as a wetland scientist, kind of definitely just interested in conservation as a whole, and figured this was a way to give back to town and community.
And Turtlefest 25 attendee.
Yes, I have the t-shirt.
Hi everyone, George Anderson, Newmarket resident for going on my second year now. Recently appointed alternate member here. Day job, day function, I work in corporate sustainability. Long time interest in conservation. So yeah, happy to be here.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ellen Snyder. I've been on the commission on and off for about 31 years, too long. But
No.
I'm a wild biologist, so it's sort of my interest as well as my profession, and I'm happy to be here.
Chris Blackstone, I've been on this commission 4 years now, and in other couple of towns on conservation commissions. When I was involved in elementary and middle school education, I was the STEM science-y person with a heavy leaning on let's go outdoors. I wasn't so good with the beakers and Bunsen's and stuff, so we did other things outdoors, kind of ahead of some of the curve for some STEM things. And I'm thrilled to be here. And every now and then somebody says, you drove to the Conservation Commission? Because I just live around the corner, but I'm often coming from somewhere else and getting here just in time, so I want to dispel some of those, some of that might be out there. Yeah.
Jeff Goldnoff. I am the Planning Board representative to the Conservation Commission. I originally joined the CONCOM back in about 2010, served about 10 years on it, and then moved on to the Planning Board. I'm in the middle of my second term on the Planning Board. Conservation Commission rep was a natural fit because it's where I had previously served for 10 years, and a little bit of couple seasons as a backcountry educator, a lot of hiking, and it's just it was a way for me. I originally joined as a way to give back to something I got so much from, which was the natural surroundings, the trail systems, conservation properties. So, yeah.
My name's Emma Fortin. I'm the non-voting member from the school liaison. I joined because it was kind of a cooler way to get more involved with the town and also have connections between the school and our environmental club, and then also the town, and kind of have more involvement there.
Second year. She did it last year, and she's back for more, so we're thrilled.
Colin Lawson. I think I've been on 2 years now, roughly 2 years. Retired conservationist. I worked for Trout Unlimited for quite a few years. Retired a few years ago. We moved to Newmarket, I think it's 16 years ago now, out on Lamprey Street. So we use the rivers and the bay quite a bit. Yeah, and happy to help wherever I can.
Thanks, Colin.
Everybody, I'm Zach Angelini. I have been in Newmarket, I think a little over 2 years now, and also just really appreciate the natural beauty of Newmarket and use the the river, Lamprey River, and the trails like a lot. So wanted to give back as well. And I work in sustainability too, so a fun way to kind of use my experience.
So your sustainability is through UNH and the Greater
I consult with UNH and other like clothing and food companies.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
And yours is corporate
Yeah,
sustainability?
an
Okay.
energy company, but a lot of nature-based solutions. Nature-based solutions, land-related stuff as well. So.
Gotcha, thank you.
Hello, I'm
Hi.
Elizabeth Dudley. I'm an alternate. I'm a landscape architect, and I have always had a lifelong interest in the world around us, more specifically, I guess, the wild world. So I'm happy to be here.
Good, there you go. So that's our roll call. Absent tonight would be, well, it's down here as well, but Juli Tyson is absent and resigning, and Jess Can is unable to be here tonight. So with Jess unable to be here, I can appoint Luke as a voting member tonight in prep for your other move, okay?
Did you say Julie's resigning?
Julie, yes, Julie is resigning. All good things. She's bought a property in Deerfield and is moving, actually. Not exactly my story to tell, but moving.
Yes, sir.
We'll talk about that way down here when we need somebody to do something else for Turtlefest, like she.
You can appoint a second person since.
And that's a good thing. So I can appoint a second person. Do you want to do that, George?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. So we have Luke and George appointed as voting members tonight. Luke and George. All right. And I will say Bridget's not here, but she'll be reviewing the tape and doing minutes for us from the tape review. All right, public comment. It's on the agenda. We always ask for all the legal reasons, but seeing nobody from the public and no other emails or anything from the public to share, we can move on to approving meeting minutes from July 10th. Seems like a long time ago. As George pointed out, it's been a while since we were together, so it's nice to see everyone, so.
I guess I was not present, but I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, do we have a second to approve the minutes? All right, second by Colin, motion by Jeff. All in favor? Aye. All right, and a quick clarification for how we do things here. And I know it's confusing because some boards say, well, some people, you can choose if you want to say, I wasn't at the meeting, I don't want to vote to approve or not. But really and truly, you're allowed to vote to approve the minutes because what you're saying is this document is what is attested and, you know, the punctuation and everything is correct. It's kind of like when you go to a notary. They don't say, what? I can't have you do this thing that you're signing the paper. It doesn't matter what you're signing. The notary just says, I saw this person sign this paper. So it was unanimous for approval of the minutes. Regular business. So the first item was about Juli Tyson, resignation, and the process to move from alternate to full. So we have taken care of that with Luke moving up, probably commutative, but Luke is taking Julie's place and you can take Jess's place. But with that said, we can point out that Juli was the vice chair of the Conservation Commission, so we're looking for somebody else to step in and take the vice chair slot, and that would be now until we have a reorganization in the springtime. So do we have somebody that would be willing to take on the vice chair position?
Yes!
All right. With that amount of enthusiasm, who dare disagree?
Nice.
Awesome. You want to leave the room and we'll vote?
I nominate.
A second for Colin's nomination?
Second.
Well, that's a...
Thanks,
right.
Gus.
So that's 2 times 3 is 6. Boy. All right, now we'll vote. Again, you're going to block your ears.
Okay.
Yeah. You can vote for yourself, though, so I know how you're going to block your ears.
You have to do that.
All right. Thank you for serving as our vice chair. That was unanimous. Thank you very much. Glad to have your help and insights and your background. Thank you.
Great.
Okay, the next item here is picnic table purchase approval. This one is one of the more creative solutions I think we've come across. With every grant proposal, of course, there's creative narratives, but this one is like a really wonderful game of tessellation, I think. So Ellen, do you want to describe the picnic table
Sure. Scenario?
situation?
So So as you recall, we bought 2 bike racks back in the summer, and those have been installed by DPW, one at Wigan Farm, and we put the other one at the Sliding Rock, Piscassi Boat Launch, because that seemed to make the most sense in terms of people potentially visiting. So we also thought it would be a good idea to have picnic tables at those 2 spots to sort of go with if you want to ride your bike and have a picnic, or if you just want to go there and have a picnic and then go for a walk. So we have $4,600 in the Richard Schanda Fund, which is for the Schanda Park, and we never really use that money because we're sort of waiting for the big sort of restoration projects. So there are 2 black, if you've been there, there's 2 black 8-foot-long picnic tables there, which are fine. One's kind of bent, but we thought because we have funds for Schanda Park that we could buy new picnic tables for Schanda Park, so they're a little spruce, same sort of, basically the same kind, 8 feet, they're accessible at both ends. We can get green or blue or black, we can decide what color. And then take those 2 and put one of those at Wigan Farm and one of those at Schanda Park, or at, at Sliding Rock. So that we're not using any of our conservation funds, we're essentially using the Schanda Park fund to buy more picnic tables for Schanda Park. So it seemed like, and they're not cheap, they're accessible metal picnic tables they're sustainable because they last for a very long time. And they're
What
pretty
is the price?
They're about, what did I say? So $2,500. So they're, $1,200 plus shipping, somewhere in there. So they're not cheap. But talking to like DPW, they have to constantly replace wooden picnic tables. And if you do pressure treated, that's not so great. And then wood just falls apart. And plastic, recyclable plastic, we thought about that, but people seem to prefer the metal. So it's just a proposal. If you like the idea, we can discuss it or propose it and improve it.
Ellen, what do we have at Heron Point? I don't think we have anything at Heron Point
There is, so
now.
we had an Eagle Scout. She
Oh,
put
at the
one way at
far
the
end.
point.
Yeah.
And if you go to the boardwalk in the beginning, you can sort of sit on the bench there.
Right.
So
Right.
it's probably sufficient, just given the lack of access we have to maintain things out there.
Right.
When Alan has referred to these as metal, it's also interesting, I don't know if you can picture them in your head, but they're metal, but it's the kind with a million little perforations, kind of like the number of perforations on the front of this table.
Right.
So they don't get, they don't gather, your crumbs will fall through, your crust will stay on the table, but they don't gather rain or whatever. It's a really nice surface, rather than the plastic ones that look like fake wood, that are fake wood, that are just like planks. So they're very practical for stuff just falling through.
Any concerns on rusting at all?
They don't seem to rust. These
Yeah.
black ones have been there forever. No, they're pretty sustainable.
Great.
I think they're coated, right?
They're coated too as
Yeah.
well, yeah.
Some kind of
So,
coating.
Yeah.
So do we have some interest and some motion to purchase these tables and do the affiliated move with the current Schanda tables off to the 2 sites with bike racks?
Yeah, I would absolutely.
So it would essentially be up to
Propose we do
$2,500
that.
from the Schanda Fund.
Yeah.
That's a move for $2,500 from Schanda. Is there a second for Colin's move about that? Thank you. Any further discussion about the tables?
What's the balance in the Schanda Fund?
So there's $4,621.
Is the remaining after this? or
No, there would
current?
be,
That's a
but
current balance.
we've had this money, it was given to given to this fund from the, I always forget which one, it's not the American Legion, but it's one of the Masons or one of those, I should remember, but.
Yeah, one of the early days.
So it's just sort of been sitting there, and we thought, well, we'll keep it until we're seed money for the restoration, but who knows when that's gonna happen, so we felt, and people have been sort of clamoring for some improvements at Schanda Park, and so we thought, well, this is one thing we could do, is make some nicer picnic tables.
That's the great visual effect,
Yeah.
plus the practicality of now. We've said, go ride your bike, enjoy the scenery, sit on the ground, get bitten alive by little cheaters and stuff.
Feed the ducks.
Yeah.
Stand nicer spot to sit with. I'm just kidding.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So there's unanimous for the
Thank you.
picnic tables.
Take care of that.
There was someone down there the other day with the ducks on their lap.
No way.
Feeding the ducks. I was like, oh.
As long as they weren't feeding them
I know.
bread.
So
Yeah,
just wanna-
yeah, they had gone and picked a bunch of stuff off the bottom of the river to feed them. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
It was bread. It was bread.
So I just want to follow up and thank DPW again for helping with the,
Yeah.
putting out the bike racks, and they'll help with this as well, so it's a great partnership.
So if you go out and stand by a bike rack or sit at these tables when they move, send a picture, because it would be a lot of fun to go ahead and start introducing through the e-news different ones of us doing things. If you don't already subscribe to the e-news for the town of Newmarket, check that out on the website and see if you can't get it. And it's not a fear, they don't do anything with the distribution list of your email. So you don't have anything to worry about with getting on the email list. It comes out Fridays, maybe 10-ish every Friday morning. Okay, feather flags. One of the things that we've been looking forward to doing and doing more of is events out in the world, out in public, out on some of our properties. And we thought if we had, we chit-chat about having a conservation commissioner standing there saying like, oh, here's the driveway, or here's the entryway to the site, or those sandwich board signs. We could borrow one of those from somebody else in the town, but those are cumbersome to lug around and cumbersome to carry, and someone's got to have it, and then you back into your car, has to be cleaned out to schlep it back where you got it. Feather flags seem to be a good answer. There's two kinds of them. There's the ones that have like claw feet that you stomp on and put in the ground. There's also ones that have sandbags or water that you can hold them up somewhere. The ones with the sandbags or water seem more practical because we can't promise where the feather flags need to be stuck into the ground, or, where they would mark somewhere where an event was going to be. So we were looking for having 2 feather flags, thinking we could have concurrent events or turn here and then maybe park your car, walk up here, and then take this part of a trail and turn there. So we're looking to make kind of a choice. There's, I don't want to say it out loud, but Amazon flags that are far less expensive than ones we could get through, for instance, Staples. The Amazon ones, personal, having seen one and touched one compared to the Staples ones, are not going to stay as feathery and flaggy as long. So I'm thinking of, we don't want to saddle any further commissions with a torn up one. It would be kind of not so good to say, here's our event. You can't really read the sign too well because it says, because it, frayed apart. So we'd be looking for buying 2, and they're, I didn't have it with me, just under $250 each, opposed to like $125 each. So there is a price catapult, but I think between, if we choose the clawfoot kind or the sandbaggy or water-filled ones, we'll have a better product for a longer period of time and more durability and easier way that they come. It sort of comes across and you stick the pole back in to get that feather effect. I would also recommend that we only get the one that's just about 7 feet tall, not the whole full-blown car dealership type. We can do with a much smaller one because people might have punched in an address on their GPS, or we just tell people drive up the road or walk through the field until you see the flag. So anybody being the volunteer that's going to get there first and put up the flag can have an easier time just carrying this thing that's just a little bit taller than ourselves.
What is a feather flag?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, and that's really poor teaching technique, isn't it? You gotta make sure everybody knows what you're talking about. They're those flags that come up, it's only about this wide, but it comes up and then the thing, it
I
arcs
got you.
over.
Yeah, I got you now. Okay.
Right.
Looks like a feather. One feather. Gotcha. Okay.
Stylistically, yeah, more
Yeah.
than a
I
heart
got you.
or whatever.
Yeah, no, I got you now.
Yeah,
I know
sorry,
what that
I
is.
am sorry that
That's
wasn't
okay.
good. And it should, that includes printing, and so it can just simplistically say Newmarket Conservation, for instance, and we don't need the whole town seal. I don't think we need a logo. We can talk about that, but I think it's ample to just say Newmarket Conservation, boom, done, and there you go. Anybody that's out there looking for it knows that this is what they're going to do. They're evergreen that way if that's all it says. Any other discussion or questions about feather flagging? Okay, then we get to, oh, I'm sorry, Elizabeth.
Well, I was wondering if the Newmarket Conservation Commission was consistent in terms of logos, et cetera. I think it's, maybe it's overkill to have a seal, but I think people like to see confirmation of arrival somewhere. And I just think if there is a logo that you have, that we use it consistently, and so maybe to include it with the name, just to add that stamp.
To the best of my knowledge, the Conservation Commission hasn't had a logo. If anything, they've put the town seal on some
Put the
things.
town seal on the kiosks and things like that.
So we could do that, if you want the town seal on it.
I just think it gives a certain validity.
Lets you
That's
know,
my
it's,
thought, but that's.
lets people know it's not a conservation group that's based in Newmarket. It lets them know it's part of the town.
Right.
It's a good point.
Good point.
I think I agree with that. And what would the remaining text on it say? Just Newmarket
Just
conservation?
Newmarket Conservation.
Yeah, sounds good. And his idea for primarily events, we want to say like a conservation event kind of thing. Would that still be evergreen enough, or?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be evergreen, because I'm not saying like Newmarket Conservation Turtlefest, or Newmarket Conservation,
Right.
I don't know, Bird Walk, or whatever.
Yeah,
Just-
we're not using it for anything outside of events. Is I guess what I'm trying to
I
say.
wouldn't
right?
think so.
No, because even if we had it like, we could put it in the display, and that's still an event, right? So-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if when I see a feather flag with just the word Newmarket Conservation on it, I'm like, I don't know, maybe that doesn't quite say what I'm going to, but if it's an event, and if it's only used for events, maybe we say conservation event.
For instance, two summers ago, we had a table at the rec department's backyard bash. So we could have had at each end of that pop-up tent, the thing that just said Newmarket Conservation. And I see the point about the seal. So Newmarket Conservation with the seal is that validity thing, or the endorsement piece,
Yeah.
I guess.
Can they do a mock-up before we, okay, they do those?
No, they'll do it. The way Staples will do it is they'll go ding on the computer and then just do a print, just hand a thing that the screen looks like and print it. What maybe I could have them do is just email me that and then distribute that to people.
Yeah, it might be worth,
I think so.
Maybe do two, one with the event added and one without the event.
Yeah, I can go either way on that. I'm not going to die on that hill, but I agree about the seal and providing like a certain legitimacy.
Well, speaking to that, consistency with a font too. I don't know if you have a particular font you use, but I think that is also important if you want to extend, your visibility. If you're consistent about your colors, your font, your symbol, it helps people understand what you're in an official.
Maybe 2 years ago, maybe you remember, Brian, Town Council, Steve came out with the font he wanted people to use on memos and bulletins and flyers and whatnot. I would say maybe half the groups followed it and half didn't. And then there was also a really interesting issue that's coming up with emails and using fonts that are sans serif. So over 1 million people doing an email, all that ink that's on the little footings of the letters being saved, and your own ink printing things out, let alone all the little pixels that make the data saved on server farmers in Nebraska, all adds up. So a lot of people are looking for the simplicity in fonts, let alone the readability for any kind of eye issues, aging issues, simplicity issues for any kind of sensory awareness, or people that want things more simplified with reading.
Actually, it's easier to read fonts with serifs versus fonts without serifs.
There's a lot of research about that, but anyway.
But I
there's
mean,
also-
that's my understanding. But maybe we could have, we could follow the suggested font that the town.
Given that, I won't go too far down that road, because two places I looked on Amazon and Staples have this is what you can choose from. Period, boom, done, for their printing, how they print, so.
Well, if it coincides.
I'll do some mock-ups and get them out to you.
Are
and
they
you can
one
see.
color, or how does the color?
Oh, the colors were pretty much all over the map, not as widespread as our Turtlefest colors, but when they say blue, it's cobalt blue. When they say green, it's emerald green, or lime green, but mustard yellow. I can type that up. I mean, do you have any gut reaction to color? There's so much research about what license plate colors should be. And there's no standard American license plate, and the people in California used to say it had to be gold letters on a black background, but that's not what anybody else was doing at the time. So go for it, Brian.
Yeah, just for color, if we are putting this out in the field, just don't go with green. And it's like my immediate thing is like, I know Conservation Commission green. If we're going to be putting it out somewhere in the woods or something, it's got to be a color that stands out. So maybe a blue or a yellow or something, but I would say, despite the obvious connection, avoid green.
Yeah.
Good point.
I was going to say, a lot of the signs that the town has put up around are blue with black lettering, if I'm not mistaken, like the sign at Shopmeyer Park and the one that's on Bay Road for Heron Point. And I think some of the ones as you come into town, the Newmarket signs that are hanging on the posts, the little ones. I think it seems like a trend around town.
Kind of going back on our
The little ones? It's like
Oh,
this
the little ones.
Yeah, they're like this
I'm
big.
thinking
when
of
you
the
come-
ones that's like.
No, the little ones
edge.
when you come into downtown
Yeah.
here somewhere, there's one. It seemed like a trend like the town was going that
They're
route.
nice looking, I like the blue.
Yeah.
Kind of going back on our font conversation as well. I mean, I think maybe making every best effort we can to match the, any color on the letterhead and fonts there. Even if it costs a little bit more, I think is still good money spent. But I could be talked off that if that's not a popular opinion.
Brand recognition.
I'm sorry, can you clarify? I didn't quite understand your last statement.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about having consistency in
yes.
fonts and stuff. But if there's any colors, or I guess saying the word brand assets feels weird when you're talking about a municipality. But if we can match those colors that are used on like the town website or town letterhead to the best of our ability, I think that's, even if it costs extra, even if those those hex codes aren't available with
The premium.
Staples, if we have to go up a price tier, I feel like that's still money well spent, and
I
think
agree.
it provides for a longer, more sustainable product, right?
Can I add one more thing to that?
Of course.
The,
And then Brian, your hand was up.
oh, sorry. I didn't say
I
that.
was gonna just say, agree with like the idea of trying to keep it with branding. I don't know that we put out enough materials with our logo and
Right.
branding. So if I would say anything, stick with whatever Steve has put out there, and my suggestion would be just make it, I was gonna say like a white flag with green letters would probably, it would be something like that, but yeah, I would just stick to the branding we have in town. There's no point in us, we're not putting out enough stuff to make it worthwhile to make our own like branding guide. Just kind of stick with what's already been made. No reason to break something or if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah.
I think right now our brand focus is on Turtlefest, and what does that look like with
Yeah.
the woodcuts from John Herman,
Yeah.
probably? And also, I think in terms of like 45 miles an hour. How do you see it when you're, because you figure most of the things that, maybe not most, I have no data to prove that. You probably know where you're going, that you're going to a Newmarket conservation thing when you get there. You don't randomly think, oh, I had no idea there was a museum like that in New York City. Let's go see the advertising museum, right? You're already keenly looking for where is that driveway. So we don't have to quite worry so much about, we're in competition with the National Butterfly Association, and you need to make sure you get into the right driveway, right? So we should be so lucky as to have so many groups out there doing the same thing and competing. All right, so.
The only other thing I read there was the logo, the town, or the town seal. Wasn't there, could be very mistaken on this, did we change the town seal?
No.
Okay.
No, remember Steve asked us to put it on something or another?
The
Again,
300
not every group did it, but
Yeah,
we
the
did.
300th committee has made a little logo for Newmarket's 300th, and so that might be what you're thinking.
Oh, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, that's 100%. Just wanted to make sure.
You can also do color or black and white logo. I don't know what the color, that'd be more than one color, so I don't know if they'll charge more for that. Because it's multicolored, the seal, which looks nicer.
But again, it's a 45-mile-an-hour thing.
Yep.
And you just pulled in, you drove past it, and you're waving to people you know that you're meeting there to start your hike. All right, so I will get a printout at least, or some kind of mock-up, going with a couple of color schemes and getting a PDF from Bridget or Wendy of the town seal. All right, so I guess the purchase approval is going to be at the next meeting after you see some combinations and some, but we're looking at pricing when I'm doing all this, we're looking for the water filled or sand filled, not the prongs in the ground. Okay. Okay. Then we have, that's that for that, or anything else? If you think of something else, just email me in the next little while. If there's something else to change or do. All right, item D under regular business. We have Jerry Collins asking again about the weir, Chick's Weir, at the Schanda Park. Is everyone familiar with what that is or what that looks like down at Schanda Park?
Yes.
He's asking to be able to store it. He pulls it out in October, keeps it down there, tucked away, and then puts it back out again in June. He's been doing that for, I'm not even sure how many years. He checks on it regularly. There's been a couple of times I've been down there for a Tuesday evening music event with the rec center, and he's been called to come in there and help rescue some ducks out of part of it and whatnot. So he lives on Water Street. He lives right there, and he cares deeply about it. My understanding is if he should ever give it up, it's done. Nobody else can then say, great, I've been wanting to do that weird. So it's him until it's not him, and then it's gone.
Can he
So-
pass that off? I thought it was as long as it's used every year, or implemented every year, it could continue. But if there was a break in it, then it would not be able to be reinstalled. But
I'll
it might
check on
just be
that.
Jerry.
I thought it was just Jerry.
I thought it was grandfathered to him, but I'm not sure.
Okay, it might be. Yeah.
That's an interesting point, though, for next meeting, but what we're talking about tonight is are we giving him the okay to pull it in October and store it and put it back out again in June? But I'll find out. When I notify him or have Wendy notify him of whatever our choice is tonight, we'll find out what the situation is with Jerry Collins being the chick's weird person. Yeah.
I'm just curious, so it's regularly monitored
Well,
in
he
terms
is
of
in charge of
wildlife
it.
being caught in it and so forth? I mean, it's adequately monitored.
I don't feel comfortable answering that one way or another. I can just say, I've sat there and seen him get a call, and he's come. I can also say, I've seen it, and the way he got the call, in fact, was because police were monitoring down there and realized they needed to call him.
Well, I'd just be curious to know how often wildlife is entrapped in it, and if it's still worthwhile to have it there.
Yeah, it's a good point. I helped him install it quite a few years ago one time. He was looking for some help, but I don't know how often he's checking it. I know he's selling it to the product, to the lobstermen, but how often he's in there pulling anything out of it, I don't know.
Well, to me, just that's a question I think we should ask since we are
Yeah,
the
good
Conservation
point.
Commission.
We're not allowing him to put it there. We're only allowing him to store the
Right,
materials
Fish and
for
Game.
the.
Oh, but I
for the
thought you said
off-season.
we were also voting on, I thought you mentioned also letting him reinstall it in the spring. I thought you mentioned that.
He wants to take it out in October.
And then I thought you said, and reinstall it in spring.
He wants, this question
Yes.
asks us if he can
Okay.
store it at Schanda Park.
Yeah.
Under our jurisdiction for that time period.
Yes, I thought,
Maybe I wasn't clear, sorry.
oh, okay, I thought you had mentioned taking it out again in the spring, so.
No, if I said anything about it, it was in response to Colin saying, I'll find out if it's grandfathered for him passing it on, or if it's, when he's done, it's done.
Okay, good. So I'm happy, from my perspective, to let him store it. I'm not sure, maybe it's, at this point, antiquated and is something that may be of interest for Strawberry Bank, but I'm not sure we want to have it there. That's just my thoughts.
Quick question, by giving him permission to store it there, what's our responsibility? And, if somebody was there and played with it and damaged it, is it up to us then to sort of help him with the costs on that?
I wouldn't think so.
I wouldn't think so
I think he
either,
should be
but,
notified to store at his own risk.
what's that?
He should be notified perhaps to store at his own risk, but he probably understands.
I think the way it says, subject to property's restrictions, provisions, and stipulations, it's at your own risk.
Yeah,
The same as when you rented a kayak, slip
Yeah.
somewhere. It's,
yeah.
We're allowed to prescribe stipulations, I believe. I know one thing that we often used to tell him or ask him to do, because there was an issue one time when he was drying the nets and they were across like the public pathways.
Oh, right.
And somebody tripped and got hurt, and so I was just going to mention to just remind him or ask him not to, when he dries the nets, to
Right.
lay them across any
Public
egress or
Yeah.
thoroughfare or whatever.
good point.
That
Good
could
point.
get the town in trouble.
Yeah.
That could.
Any other questions about that? Yeah, he says he is going to leave said property in the state it was found before usage occurred. All right. Do I have any other questions? And it's also CC'd to the police department, so they would know that we said he could store it somewhere or not. Do we have a motion about storing Jerry Collins' chick swear at Schanda Park?
I'll make a motion that he get permission to do that, yeah.
Okay, a second to that. Thank you, Colin.
Sorry.
Thank you, George. Okay, any other discussion or questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So we have an unanimous, thank you. There's that. Review of the budget for fiscal year 26-27. And this one, thank you for being here tonight. I didn't want to sound like I'm hammering, I'm blabbering, I'm nitpicking, I'm, poking the bear here, but it's really important. We are truly to the wire of getting this submitted, so thank you very much. Do you want to talk about what the budget
Sure.
looks like now, Ellen, as our treasurer?
Sure, so we actually voted back in, if you remember, in our July meeting at a proposed FY '27. And since then, we've had some conversation with Bart, and so we're coming back with a revision. It's actually quite a bit different than we've asked for in the past for a couple reasons. So we are currently in FY '26, we're in that cycle, and so this will go for FY '27, which starts July 1st of next year. So this goes through a budget process this fall, goes through Bart and Steve, and then the budget committee, and then the town council, and then finally the warrant article in March. So in talking with Barb, we weren't really sure about the part-time salary, if Bridget was going to be doing it for the commission for the planning office, but it sounds like they have advertised a position, so he wants us to maintain that salary line item for a minute taker. So we sort of said, okay, we're going to keep that. And then we talked to Bart about, we're taking on more stewardship responsibilities, both fee-owned conservation areas that we steward and also conservation easement monitoring that we farm out some and we do some ourselves. And we have, we all have very great skills on it, but we're volunteers and we turn over time. And so having some consistency and having some help, some additional consulting help for some of these efforts would be really useful. And this kind of parallels something that Durham has had for a number of years now. They have a Durham Land Stewardship Coordinator, part-time. And that person, I was the first person that did that position, and they're now on their fourth person, but it's essentially to do that. It's to really help the town keep track of stewardship projects, write grants, or at least tell us, hey, there's a grant coming up, this would be a really good project for your property. And also maybe help with some of the easement monitoring, at least the coordination. And to be honest, this is sort of what I've been doing for the past while for the commission. I've been happy to do it as a volunteer, but I think it's time to pass that on to either, if there's people here that want to do it, but I think we really need to look at having some additional staffing time, and that's basically hiring a consultant, like the person who's working in Durham could potentially do that, or some other consultant. So Bart thought that was perfectly reasonable, and so we actually bumped up the contracted services to accommodate potentially, $10,000 a year, which is actually not a lot of money, but it would give us a lot of assistance in terms of getting our work done. Yeah. So that would change. So everything else, pretty much, we did add a little bit in for training and workshops. I think we went back and forth on that at our last meeting in July. So it comes out to $17,100 as a request. It may be that along the process that people don't agree, but I think we make a pretty good case in the narrative about why, basically what I've just explained. And also that we've been really successful in leveraging the money we've brought in, and leveraging our conservation fund, and leveraging the general fund monies that we get, and partnering with other conservation entities. So we're bringing in way more money through that process than we're expending of town money. And so I think the commission has done a good job in stewarding and its responsibilities for the town of Newmarket. So that's the proposal. And I think we need to approve this because it goes Friday to the next stage.
To the next phase of this. That's why it was so imperative we're able to talk about it tonight. Hear the difference in the price from when we first started the budget, from the bottom line when we first started talking about it, and why. And I think we should pause a quick moment and say, Ellen's being very gracious, saying when we did this and when we leveraged the money and when we saw this grant coming, the "we" is very much Ellen W.E. Snyder. So truly, thank you for that. The skills are just remarkable that you bring to this, so thank you very much.
May I ask you just a question?
Sure.
So how did you come to, is the estimate for contracted services realistic enough, you think?
So
Or-
we thought, $10,000 would be sort of calculated out potential hours and hourly rate. You sort of have to balance it we can't go a lot higher than that because we probably wouldn't get support. We have to sort of start, but I think if you could hire a contractor for $10,000, they could do quite a bit for us, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the driver of the 1,000 to 2,200 change then? I assume, is it based on like how much we spent on tree people to take trees down this year or
Yeah, I
anything
think it
like
was
that,
to sort
or-
of balance out, because we also are paying, I think, a little bit more to sell it, because we added in a third property.
Oh, okay.
And so we take that money out of the general fund to do that, and so
Right.
it was also the case that, that money, that might go up, or, maybe there's something like that, a tree or something we need to do if the town can't afford it, so. I think it was just I think we originally had wanted to increase the contractor line item to about, 2,200 or something, so we said, well, let's add the extra 10 for this idea of having more consulting assistance.
With that, in case people ask you, the consistency is what's really important. Heaven forbid Ellen decide to take off again to another country and see a rainforest in Costa Rica, but we need to get a hold of her and ask something about, the contractor said this, or we don't have a contractor, can you do this? Or here's this deadline, does this grant sound believable? So we really need somebody with eyes on Newmarket, and sometimes your eyes are on Newmarket because it's your job to do so. So we're at a cusp. We have, just about everybody here said, oh, I want to be on the Conservation Commission. I do trails, I hike, I like the outdoors, Newmarket's beautiful. Well, it's only as beautiful as we can keep it keeping beautiful. And that person's, I know when Ellen and I talked about it, her background in having done that job was really, she's really able to say, well, this is a thing there's ebbs and flows. Here's the busy months for this type of work. Here's the not so busy months. And then we get to if you've ever been involved in a grant, you feel like, oh, I got the email, yay, the grant's accepted. That's only the beginning, because then you have to have all your manila envelopes with the receipts, with the proof, with the invoices, and then X number of months when the project's closed, the grant's reported. How did it go? With a battery of questions. And it's not just you get to creatively answer how did it go. There's truly things that they're looking for in bulleted points. So I like creative writing. I could write how wonderful it was and people cried and a little kid, ran up to me and showed me a frog. They don't care. They want to know X number of people came, stayed for this amount of time, affecting this many people who traveled 50 miles or more. Boom, done. That's a very different kind of writing. So having done that on enough narratives, it's people with that kind of experience that we need. Newmarket's at the next cusp, especially with lots of new grant work coming up through how many estuary groups do we have right now between Prep this and SELT that and SHEA or SHEA and Southampton this and that. There's enough groups out there publicizing all the time. Here's an opportunity. Here's a workshop. Here's a mini grant. We need somebody that's what they're doing for us. And let's not forget there's also that kind of a thing back to your teenage years. You could just read and think like you want to borrow $20 of the car and have a kid spend the night. You kind of look at the person in charge of that activity thinking, I'm going to go for the $20 in the car. Or, oh, great, I'm going to strike now. The iron's hot, we're going full blown. One guy spends the night, two people spend the night and the car and $40. I can do it. Where's your point where you're probably going to get the best questions and stick with the yes with what you're asking for? Other questions about the budget? I think it's fun to think about.
I have one question about it for general supplies.
Oh, yeah.
Are we expending all of it? Like, should items like the feather flags be general supplies, or are those more of conservation fund type things? I know we seem to spend money on signage, and which, I don't know, feels like...
We do, I think,
This is
notebooks
general
and stuff,
supplies.
but and sometimes we've done, yeah.
Like
I
now-
usually wait until the end of the year, like if we have some stuff we want to, if we're starting to do stuff like that toward the end of the year, we could say, let's spend out that supply line item.
Right.
We only have $200, so.
Right, that's what I was wondering, if
Yeah.
like, if we really want to tap into the conservation fund forever to replace signage and buy things, like signage that feels like a supply, but maybe it's simply just part of the education portion of the conservation fund.
Yeah, and I'd have to go back, because I think I deleted what we were talking about in July, and it may have been that we were thinking of increasing the supply line item, but to do that and do the contractor line item seemed like a big lift, a little bit of a big lift, so I think we kind of subtracted that out. And
Yeah,
back
I
with
wasn't
this
thinking
model.
much. I was
Especially
thinking
'cause-
just up to $500.
Yeah.
Because it's more, and, you know, I don't know, but maybe it's, you're right. Yeah. Sometimes it's good to peck away at it if you want it to be 1,000 eventually.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, maybe we can get the 100% land use change tax under it, so
I know she was just talking about, yeah, exactly. For 100% as well.
We were also in the quirky situation where our former minute taker had a storehouse of supplies, so we weren't buying necessarily all the manila envelopes or the hanging file folders or. So we're coming off of that, and again, it's that magic number, the fulcrum point. I agree, I would love to see us, I don't know, I'd love to stick stuff in notebooks till the cows come home and have all kinds of supplies, but
we also can take money out of a different line item in this, the way this works, and so if next spring and we have a lot of money left in one of the line items, we can use that for supplies. We don't have to just stick.
yeah, it's a bottom
exactly
line, not the line by line.
It's just, we're just kind of giving an estimate of what we think we might need.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about
Yeah.
May next meeting approve $500 for feather flags. Will come out of the conservation fund, which could be saved for conserving land or improving trails.
Well, we can take it out of this fund and just, we'd be debited on one of the line items, it's okay. And we've done that all this past year, because it's so far out in terms of your budgeting cycle, it's just so hard to
So hard.
figure out each line item, so.
Any other questions or discussions about this proposal? Yep.
So, in terms, Ellen, for fiscal year '26, we haven't even, we're far away from that, or when
No,
does
we're in
that start?
fiscal year starts July 1st.
So,
So
okay.
we're in fiscal year '26.
So my question is, just to alleviate some of the burden on the contracted services need, can we add some money to fiscal year '26 now?
No,
Okay.
nope, it's fixed, it was fixed a year ago, and it's fixed by the voters, so we vote on it
Okay.
in March, and that starts July 1st.
Okay.
And is it a zero-base budget, or does any of our unspent funds in fiscal year '26 carry over to
No, it's a
27?
zero for the general fund. That's why the nice thing is we have this conservation fund by RSA, and so that's, that carries over, and so that's why we can put funds that we bring in into that, and so, yeah, this is zero base, so.
Good job, thank you.
We do not, that, in case you know, that's like when people take land out of current use, you know about that, I don't have to get into it.
So you can please go
Oh,
ahead.
I was gonna say, like, so if somebody has land in current use, so they're paying less tax, and they take it out to develop they can take out portions of property or sell a whole property and develop it, they have to pay a current use tax penalty, I guess. I don't know if it's called a penalty or not really, but on the tax, basically the taxes we didn't pay on this, right? And 50% of that goes to the Conservation Commission, 50% goes to the general fund. So the Conservation Fund is kind of mostly heavily supplied from that. And that number has been dwindling over the years as there's less and less larger tracts of land that happen to be in current use developed, which is why I'm like, well, let's get more money in our budget. So we spend less of the Conservation Fund because it fills up slower than it used to. But you're right, this is like a large percentage increase in budget, so it might not be great to ask for more, but.
It's very new, so that's very helpful, so thank you.
Yeah. Might not be that, Alan could probably explain it far better.
We'll get, actually, I'm gonna, because we're getting some this month, or, well, I'll explain it when we get to the budget, or the finance report.
Yeah, I saw that in there.
Other questions or comments about this budget proposal, which we need to vote on so we can get to Bart, finally to town council and on Steve's desk? All good? Other questions? Do I have a motion to go forward with asking for the $17,100?
Motion to go forward.
Thank you, Zach, for the $17,100 motion. Second to that? Thank you, George. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That would be unanimous. Thank you. Thank you for the dialogue about it, Ellen. Okay, review of budget. I can put stars there. Item F, this says Rosa Property, parenthetically, review of draft warrant article. Through the efforts of drafting and editing and passing to Bart and Bart's suggestion, we do have that warrant article now to review, correct, Ellen?
Yeah, essentially, it's going to be for $145,000. So this is one that we want the Budget Committee and the Town Council to support, so it goes through that process. And it's $145,000 because that's what we feel is going to be the balance that we're going to need after we do all the other grants. And it especially says, you know, it's a standard warrant article, we approve this amount, and we explain why that we're acquiring. Would be for the acquisition of the conservation easement, because that's in Newmarket. We're not using town money to acquire the fee in Durham. We're using grant money to acquire the fee in Durham, because that's sort of that's a distinction we need to make in Newmarket.
Would the town hold the fee?
Yeah, we would still own it,
Town.
but we won't be using town money to acquire it. So we've gotten $100,000 from the Lamprey River Advisory Committee. We got I can't remember when we last met, but we did get the Fields Pond grant for $20,000. And we've submitted the LCHIP grant for $75,000, and that site visit will be September 23rd or something. And they decide like in November or December. And we submitted the Moose grant. That was an I again. I guess I should say it. That will also be notified, I think, in December. So by December, we'll know how much, whether the 145 is going to make sense. And we're also going to apply to the Great Bay Partnership also, and their grant round is until April. So that'll be the last piece. So those will be those two pieces. So anyway,
Ellen, what happens if everything comes in?
Good, because we need every penny. This is right on target. Like, we don't have any extra money in this.
So we're assuming we'll
Yeah.
receive all of it?
Yeah, I guess I would be ecstatic if we got all the money we requested from LCHIP and Moose, because those are very competitive.
Yeah.
But we're also a municipality, which doesn't apply as often as land trusts do, and so our partners, like SELT, said, we might have a really good chance of getting, because we're applying as a municipality.
Don't feel bad, like I asked her the same thing when she wrote and said, oh, this grant came through. And I said, oh, so we take that $20K off of this 145 and hit send, thinking, no, that can't be true, because we always talk about 145K and how tight it is.
Yeah.
And she dutifully and quickly wrote back and said, no, remember, we need the 145
Yeah,
at
these
this
projects are
point.
complicated with land conservation. You need so many partners.
And with
the,
each has their own expectations.
The Moose grant, don't get me started.
And if the warrant article, that doesn't get voted on until February?
March. Which is what we've said, we won't
And we
close
won't.
until probably September, because it takes almost that much time to get everything in place.
And some of the grants we won't hear about until April.
Yeah, the Great Bay Partnership, I don't know if we'll hear till maybe June.
How much is that?
I'm hoping that we can apply for 20,000
$20,000. So we'll know about everything
by June.
we'll know about everything but that
Yes.
by the time the warrant
Yeah.
article gets voted
Yeah.
on.
It's a sticky wicket in a way for how it's falling.
But at least it's not $150,000 so that we're
Correct.
like, because if the
Right.
town approves this and then we come up 20,000 short, it'd be easier to find a.
Yeah, and we'll just have
That
to, maybe we go
stopgap.
back to LRAC and say, look, we're 10,000 short, or we look for private fundraising.
Or we can find that in the conservation fund.
Or we can put a little bit more from the conservation fund. Yeah.
Other questions about this? Go for it, Elizabeth.
I'm sorry, since
don't
this
be
is
sorry.
new to
Don't-
me,
don't be sorry. Totally good.
so
Good question.
I know you said what the actual money is for initially, but I wasn't sure I heard it correctly. Can you just specify again?
For the warrant article?
Who will own what and what the
Sure, yeah,
usage is?
Sorry,
Thank
I
you.
didn't even talk about, so this is the Rosa project on Wadley Falls. And it's about 16 acres in Newmarket and 24 acres in Durham, and it's contiguous, so it's all owned by the Rosa family. And it has a little bit of frontage on Wadley Falls Road. They wanted to keep ownership of the Newmarket piece because it's got a really big hayfield and their family cemetery. And they're basically their view shed of their backyard, and so it didn't make sense for a different entity to actually own it, because then they wouldn't have as much control over that, which makes total sense. So they wanted a conservation easement on that piece. So we would acquire the conservation easement, which has lesser value than if you were acquiring it in fee. And then the Durham is fee, but because it's way back there and it has a much less value, and so the fee is actually less than the easement.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, I have
So
the maps. Thanks,
the,
yeah, I wasn't sure.
So the overall budget is funding both.
Okay.
Right, so we're writing grants for both, and we have to make sure that the town money is going to the acquisition of the easement only, which actually works because the easement is a lot more expensive than the fee, just because of the juxtaposition of where they are. And it's based on, an appraiser does it based on how many house lots you can get. That's basically how appraisals are done.
I'm sorry, could you repeat?
For how many houses could you get, and that's the value, and then you take,
Right.
when you put an easement on it, you reduce the value, because you're taking away that development value.
And we'll get back to the idea of a site visit, because it's going to be very convenient and handy for all of you to have been there and seen it, to be able to talk about it, let alone to vote with confidence yourselves about it. But in case somebody were to ask you, it's much more comfortable for you to say you've seen it because you did a site walk. So we'll revisit a date for a site walk when people can get there, as well as council or other people that we were going to invite to come see the property.
So for Durham's piece, can you explain that again? Because I was distracted when
Sure.
you were. So how does the town of Durham property affect us?
So the reason that we are going to acquire it and own it is because we have access to it through Newmarket. Durham has no way to get to it. It's not accessible from the Durham side at all.
Okay.
And these people live in Newmarket, so it makes sense that we're the ones that they wanted to work with. So the overall project is around $401,000, and the easement value is $230,000, and the fee value for the Durham piece is $95,600. So the reason it comes up to $400,000 is you have surveys and hazardous waste surveys, and there's all sorts of various components and legal fees and all that kind of stuff. And then, which I think is the best thing about this particular project, because we've done a lot of land conservation projects in Newmarket, and towns in general, even other towns, not just us, have never really asked for money when you do a project like this. You have all your budget, all your items, cost items. We've never asked for stewardship money to want to take care of a piece of property that we acquire, and we've never asked for what's called an easement stewardship fund, which, again, we have to sometimes pay people to go help us monitor an easement, or you might have some legal fees if you've got some encroachment or something you have to deal with. So because we're working with SELT, Southeast Land Trust, they suggested that we incorporate that, because they do that in every project, and they have a calculation. So they calculated that for us. So this would be the first time that we would be creating a land management fund and a easement stewardship fund, and that would go under our conservation fund. So again, it would be recurring.
Oh, sorry.
So we would start building that, and if we did another project, we would again ask for money, and it would go into that. And we can actually ask for donations. People can donate to those funds like land trusts do. That happened in Durham. We did that for a project, and we got money in. So just to give you an idea of how much land trusts ask for when they do these projects. So this is just for the Rosa project. So the land management fund contribution would be $22,000, and the easement stewardship fund would be $9,200. So that's where we start to build a little bit better funding situation for helping to steward our properties in Newmarket. So I'm pretty excited about that. So that's why I hope we get all the grants, because otherwise that's the other way you do it, is you chop off part of the cost. But when you do that, the problem is the Moose grant and the LTIP grant, the percentage you're allowed to ask for is based on this overall budget. And so if you start to chop off some of the budgets, then you get less money from LTIP. So
Excellent, thank you so much for explaining it so
No,
much.
you're welcome. And if you want, I can read the warrant article. Would that be helpful? Or
Yes.
just- You want me to read it? Let me just find it. Okay. Okay, I will read it. So, Article X, whatever it will be. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $145,000 for the acquisition of a conservation easement on 16.3 acres of the Rosa property on Wadley Falls Road in Newmarket, tax map R5-81. This is part of a larger project spearheaded by the Conservation Commission to conserve 40.2 contiguous acres of the Rosa property, including the fee acquisition of 23.9 acres in Durham. This project will protect 800 feet along Falls Brook, preserve water quality, maintain unfragmented forest and wildlife habitat, hayfield and meadow, and potential trail connectivity from abutting conserved lands. The total project cost is $402,000 with the balance of funds from grants and the Conservation Commission's Conservation Fund. If passed, it is estimated that the passage of this article will amount to X cents of the tax rate, which will be figured out by powers that be, which is an X% increase over the previous year. X votes required, recommended by the Budget Committee, recommended by the Town Council when they vote.
Thank you.
Is that a simple majority, or is it a?
I'm not sure. Actually, I think it's,
Do you know,
I don't-
Brad?
I believe it was just a majority, but don't quote me on that.
maybe 2/3, no, I'm not sure.
So you only do it once a year. It's like certain passwords. You don't do them every day, so it's not second nature. So don't feel badly.
Yeah.
I think you're right, though. I think it's simple majority. But game show, not big money.
And we usually do, we do a fact sheet and we, have, as Chris said, we do a site walk so the public can come learn more about it.
We could also do, I'm thinking, through Tim Kremen, who's the person in charge of putting things on the town newsletter, or when you see those individual slides on the Newmarket closed circuit, cable, he takes care of those for us. So we could make some fact sheets about us and maybe some nice photos from the property.
That could be added to the newsletter.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we have to do a lot of PR about this because we're up against some other things, and
Yes.
it can go either way. It can be like, that one's little, go ahead and vote for it, or I already did this big thing, I can't do all these little things too. So you just can't guess how is Joe Public going to sway for it. Yep.
It seems like, Ellie, you have a nice rapport with the head of the library now. Maybe that's a opportunity
Yeah,
to
we can
make
do a
some
display there
display
and
boards
board.
there.
It's
for
a new head of the
kiosks.
library, by the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, well, Lauren, we
yeah.
call her the assistant librarian. Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of opportunities, so we'll definitely do a lot of outreach.
All right, so that doesn't take any sort of a vote from us because you...
No, I think we should vote to approve
We should
that.
vote so that
approve
the next
draft.
people know.
Yeah.
All right, do I have any kind of motion to accept this warrant article as you have just heard it read aloud? Motion. Thank you, Zach. A second for that.
Second.
Thank you, George.
Give it word.
Any other discussion, or shall we vote on this? I'm feeling we can vote on this. All in favor?
All right,
Aye. All right, thank you.
thank you.
Unanimous. Turtlefest. What I'm looking for with this one is to let people know that later in early fall, so last week, September, early October, we are looking to have what we called last year a steering committee. It wasn't just people on the Conservation Commission. We did have reps from a couple of organizations in town, and with some town hall people being on the core committee. Now, they weren't the main voter deciders. That remains with us because it's our event, but they were able to give us a lot of interesting input, different eyes, different ideas about things that came into their area of expertise. But if anybody here would like to be on that steering committee, let me know, because attendance is not necessarily mandatory, because I know everybody has jobs or different responsibilities. But we'd like to think that you're on a distribution list, and as the time gets closer, there'll be more specific things where somebody might say, well, I can't do this and that, but that day I can be the person that goes to location X and brings item D back to the Turtlefest. Last year we had some sort of snacks, fruit, granola bars, donut holes, whatever it was. So there's truly something for everybody. On the other hand, don't feel badly if you can't do anything, because our outreach is ever growing and there'll be other things for you to do. Although we'd love to think that you came to Turtlefest and that day there's things to do, like standing in the doorway and handing out materials, or telling people, oh, T-shirts, those are over there for sale. Okay? So if anybody here is interested in being involved on the steering committee, which is separate from this body, do send me an email and let me know. Zach?
I'm interested.
Nice.
I can send you an email too, but.
Nice. No, that's, I mean, look at that. Do you not want to be on a steering committee with this person? My goodness. What a motivator. And maybe I should send out the photo. The best picture, I think, one of the best pictures from that day was in fact from Zach, because he had on the coolest craft project from a young relative of his, which was a turtle shell, a paper turtle shell he wore on his back that fastened under, like with little elastics under his armpits. And he was just so proud and so happy. And I saw him from a distance and said, is that Zach? That's got to be Zach. That's Zach. Oh, yay. So thank you for being on the steering committee for it. I will say, I don't feel like I thanked Juli enough when I mentioned that she had resigned and was moving, but Juli was very creative and very helpful with the idea of what the after event was. We had some bands at the Stone Church that ended up bringing in just about $2,000 that we donated to one organization, but we would like to think there's that same kind of an event after Turtlefest, or. So it's up to us to kind of fill that, build on it, fill it, change it, switch it, and that could be an idea that you folks come up with, or maybe somebody from the steering committee that would include town hall people come up with.
So,
Yeah.
is it going to be still Turtlefest?
Well, there's another item to talk about, which
Oh.
was, I'm kind of blending them here under new business. Another group in town, there's a conservation commission has a book club through the library. That group was very keen on having it stay Turtlefest. Remember, we had talked in Bugfest, Starry Night Fest, whatever. We had wonderful ideas of what it could be. They were quite adamant and really swayed the thinking of keep the thing Turtlefest. That's great. And then John Herman has agreed. He'll do another T-shirt. And all eyes, yes, to embarrass Zach. Zach, you had the best idea. The tagline for Turtlefest would be?
So yeah, because we had talked about like expanding it to include things other than turtles, but also like keep the brand recognition of Turtlefest, which I think we've started to build. So I actually have to credit one of my friends that came up with this when I was telling them.
Well, friends getting together get great ideas,
Yeah.
I can swear to
So
it.
it was like, we would keep it Turtlefest, but then have a slogan that like broadens what it's about. That would be a celebration of Newmarket wildlife. So we could have like speakers talking about the other topics that people brought up, but still talk about turtles, but other things as well.
Yeah.
That gets us the whole turtle habitat thing. So we have insects, or we have plants, or we have something else Ellen and I talked about was lacking not lacking, yet to be discussed by our group would be anything about geology. So we've had speakers before. We've had Carner Butterflies and Heidi Holman, and a few different people have come in. We've had garbage. We've had reduce, reuse, recycle. We've had. But this whole idea of what's the geology around here, and geology being the big topic, but there could also be some stone wall person, for instance, because a lot of our trails have protected by statute segments of stone walls or full stone walls. So there's a lot to be a whole thing there, but there we still get the idea of turtle habitats. Where the turtles live, there's also fill in the blank, right? So, celebration. I've just felt like I'm by myself, reading emails late at night and laughing out loud by myself. Cat on my lap, cat jumps and runs away. It was like, yeah, celebration, it's perfect. So,
Yeah, I think it's fun too.
yeah, it is. And the whole tagline thing fits with, it sounds like you have a lot of background as well in marketing and consistency and whatnot. So, there we have it. Now, Turtlefest. The library book group was interested in bringing the idea, do you want or think about New Hampshire Turtlefest, Newmarket, or Newmarket Turtlefest. And that said, John Herman was fine with changing whatever we did want to change. I don't know if we want to talk about it now. We still have time. That can be a thing to mull over in the interest of time, because we have still some other things to talk about. But we don't need to go a 501c3 route, because there's already ways that we can take money designated for conservation for events. So we don't have to worry about another sidebar or adding anything to the town coffers or the town treasury line through any kind of software lines we could add. We're all covered in that regard. But just think about it a little bit. But celebration, that's what I want you to think about. When you get into your driveway tonight and you're just about to walk in your house, you just think, that was really a good meeting. Rosa Property, great, everything great, great, great. Celebration, yes. Very good. Anything else to take back or to put on the table starting right now about Turtlefest?
I'd be interested to, and I don't need an answer on this right now by any means, but what the time commitment would be for the steering committee and details along that. Maybe I'll ask Zach. It sounds like you were in like a similar capacity for that last year.
I wasn't last year on the steering committee, right? Like
Yeah.
we just talked about.
The steering committee, I will tell you, it's exactly what you can make it be or what you want it to be. It's coughing up your email address so that you can get like bulleted points of what did the steering committee discuss, or what were some questions they put out there, and then your interest and expertise can pop in. I keep saying expertise, it can also be, I'm leaving my expertise behind. Right now, I am interested in this other aspect that's got nothing to do with sustainability in my corporate world. I just want to be a guy on a trail saying, turn left, the bird watchers have gone up that way toward the pond.
Great.
So, I use expertise very broadly, okay?
Great. Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, so I take that to mean that we are adding George's name to the Turtlefest steering
Rub me
committee.
on.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we have conservation member notebooks. Are you ready for showtime here, Ellen? So we have, membership has its rewards, people. Can you pass this one over to Ellen? And Zach, I think you've already been presented ceremoniously with your member notebook. All
Thank
right.
you.
I think that's an extra one.
This must be an extra.
I look at it, just
Oh, yeah.
tell Ellen goes because I left mine at home.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't going to point it out loud that he didn't bring his notebook. If you have a notebook, we have here the current member additions. I'll take one. And then again, Brian, can I ask you to take the pile over to Elizabeth after you take your addition?
Yeah.
And I do want to acknowledge the work that Bridget and Ellen have done putting together the new member notebooks, let alone the additional pieces that go into the existing member notebooks.
So I thought we'd just zip through them so you know what the content is and just get a sense for it. And the idea behind it was, again, sort of going back to the idea that, again, we turn over, we have, but we have some,
Oh, thank you very much.
things that we're responsible for. We have contact information, but we also have things that we're specifically responsible for in the RSA, and we have a lot of properties and some processes that we want to sort of continue, or at some point, they can be updated, but this is where we are at this point in time. So let's just go through, let me just go through the table of contents. So the first one is just,
Do the new ones already have that addition in it?
not this new packet of stuff,
Oh, not in the new
not
ones?
this. So there would be updated member list and updated contact.
Okay.
So there's just a few things that we've updated for the new people. And those are for the people that never had a notebook.
So I just
wait a
took a
minute.
thing for people that never had a notebook?
Yeah. No. This is for the people,
Oh,
for
okay.
those of us that have a notebook.
Oh, so,
Oh, yeah,
you've
you
already
don't.
No, you don't need that
incorporated
That's what I
this.
said.
You
That's-
got a
That's what I was
notebook.
saying.
I was wondering why, yeah,
Does he need
I
it?
don't think you need to update.
We were very clear about that, sorry.
I am updated, you are not updated.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so if you just look at your table of contents, and we'll just go through sort of what the content is, and then we can go through each section. So the first one is
It's not
basically
extra, it's
just,
meant for you. You are not extra, you are perfect.
the first section is just our member list and some contacts, some people in town, and also people outside of town, our partners and that kind of thing.
So if you notice in the little pilot, not the new notebook people, the other notebook people, this orange tab at the top, post-it says 1, so that corresponds to tab 1 here.
And then we'll go through each section. I just want to go through the sort of general overview of the content. So then section 2 is budgets and finance, kind of what we just all talked about tonight in terms of different things related to that. Section 3 has spreadsheets of all of our conservation land. Section 4 talks about easement monitoring. Section 5 is trails, and there's those of you who have the new notebooks, I think it's a printed, so it's in your notebook. Those of us who had the first version, it's a handout from Fish and Game, so it's in your pocket in the back. So it's not in the actual section of trails. And then there's projects, so those are the spreadsheets about each property. And then we have a series of town resolutions, codes, and warrants that that have some relation to the Conservation Commission, and we have some role in those. And then section 8 is maps. So if we just go back to the beginning, some of these are pretty straightforward, we don't really need to talk about, but I think the next page after the colored table of contents is actually a more detailed list of what's in the notebook. So you can, peruse that at your pleasure later on. And then the next, so section 1 basically is all of our members, those of us in our contact information. We included town staff. Sometimes it's nice if you want to contact a specific person in town about something. Then there's some partner contact information, wildlife rehabbers, things like, it might be nice to know. The kind of a couple important things in that section 1. One is called Conservation Commission Operational Guidelines. If people see where that is, it's like the third. I'm not sure what the order you have, but so we adopted these in 2023. A while back, probably 20 years ago, there were some what do you call them? Meeting. I forget what they were called before. Bylaws. There we go. It's right there. And we updated that because conservation commissions don't always have bylaws, but we should follow some guidelines. And so this talks about, the RSA and our responsibilities and how we're comprised. We have 7 members and we have alternates, blah, blah, blah. Some of the officers and the responsibilities and when we meet, our finances. So I thought that would be useful for just particularly new members, so you kind of can read through that and like, okay, this is how we operate. The next 2 pieces of information are about non-public minutes. So, I don't know, 2, 4, 6 years ago, the state legislature in its wisdom said that you had to go back and look at your non-public meeting minutes, and if they were no longer needed to be non-public, you have to vote to make them public. And also, so there's 2 pieces of that. Sorry, I did them kind of in verse. So when you go into non-public, you have to follow this process, and you have to identify the statutory reason why you're going into non-public. And for us, it's usually the acquisition of property. Rarely do we go in for some other personnel or something. It's almost always about land, and you do that when the person has not gone public yet, that they want to do land conservation. We may be talking about finances, and they're just not ready to go public, and so we're allowed to do that. So we state the RSA when we go in, so that's helpful when you have your minute taker can help you with that process. So they tell you, yeah, this is the way the wording is. And then you take a roll call to go in, you enter non-public, you take a vote, and you go out of non-public, and then you take a vote to seal the non-public. It's, it's all written there, but it's a little bit convoluted, but you have to follow that process. And then the minutes can be sealed, but I think it's every 10 years, which is kind of complicated because, like for us, 10 years from now, none of us might be on this, and so who's going to remember to go back? But so what we did is we just went back through all of our, I think I had the last 10 years or 20 years, we actually had those, and so we went back and just said, yeah, these are no longer, they don't need to be non-public, but there are some that we left. So if you look on the very last page, so some of it was we released them because the project was completed, so we did the land conservation. And then others we said no reason to stay as non-public and public, and that was probably minutes that probably shouldn't have been non-public. So you do have to have like a pretty valid reason to go into non-public. Like the council does it a lot because they have personnel issues to deal with, but we don't really have that. So, anyway, just so you know, who's ever, running the meetings, you kind of need to know that process. It's not a big deal, it's just, it's there. Is that totally confusing or does that make sense? Okay. Okay, section 2, we don't have to go through this really. This is just, I gave an example of how sort of I've been keeping track of the finances every month. And so we have a great finance department in Newmarket. Bill Tappan is the head of the finance department, and Carol Sheehan is the assistant director, I think she's called. And so Carol every month sends me their printouts, which are a little hard to follow unless you like debits and unless you're a finance person. I find them kind of hard to follow. So I created my own way to track it, so it makes more sense to us. So our balances, what do we get current use, what we're approving each month, and what we've spent. And so that's what this summary is. And you get that in your packet every month. We'll go over that tonight. And then I just wanted to include an example of how we do this request every year for the general fund budget. So this is just an example from a couple of years ago. And then there's a little description of our conservation fund. So this is really helpful, again, to understand the conservation fund, this Richard Schanda fund that we have, because we had that donation, and then the general fund allocation, which we've talked about tonight.
Well, it's interesting, the Richard Schanda Fund answers our question. It was the Masonic Lodge
Oh, there we go.
that gave the
Masonic Lodge.
additional
I
sum
thought
of
it-
money.
Yeah. And it's grown a little bit. So we do get interest on these accounts, and so we get $200 or $300 a month on interest, so we build a little bit. But we get, as I think Jeff said, in 1989, we approved getting 50% of the land use change tax, because you had to vote to do that. And so the town, I think it was a warrant article. And I don't know if it still is a warrant article, but because we're a town council, I'm not sure if that would still be a warrant article, but if we wanted to request it to, you could go to 75%, you can go to 80, you can go to 100, it could go to 0, you could go the other way. So it may be something at some point if funds keep going down. But we're also, as Jeff said, we're sort of built out, and there's not a lot of current use land to come out of current use. So, but I'm surprised how much you get, because we're getting some, and I'll talk about that when we do the monthly. So anyway, just something to keep in mind. Yeah.
Is 50% like common?
Yeah,
across
50%.
towns?
It tends to be 0 or 50, and there are some hundreds. Sometimes there's 25, I think. In some towns, they cap it. So some of them are really, they can only get as much as like 20,000 or 50,000. And some are 0, and some go back to 0. So we have really good support. We've had great support since I've been here for 30 years. We've got really good support for land conservation and stewardship in the Conservation Commission. So.
That's awesome.
Okay, so the next one, this is the one where, when you get time, section 3, so these are all the properties that we are involved in as the Conservation Commission, and pretty much oversee, or we may work to make that happen for some of these, because nobody's taking care of some of these properties. So just to show you what's in here, we don't need to go through each of these, but there'll be the name of the property, the size, the date it was acquired, taxa map, lot number, location, the recorded deeds. So this would be the transfer from the owner to the town. It could be if there's a conservation easement on it. If there are other deeds like Dearborn, it just happens to be that we did a driveway right away. So there might be some other stuff related to a particular property. If there's a recorded survey, hopefully there is, and then some other notes. So that information should be up to date for every property that the town owns, and so you see there's a lot of information. And if you've never done it before, you can go into the Registry of Deeds. We're the Rockingham County Registry of Deeds. You can go in there and you can look up any survey or book and page number, so you have all the information here if you actually wanted to go read something from at home. We also have most of it hard copy file in the files back here. But you can also go in, and you can't print it off from the registry, you have to pay for it, but you can look at them just very easily. So if you're curious about a particular deed or survey, it's pretty handy. And then if we actually want hard copies, sometimes we're talking about a specific property, we can have Bart or Bridget, they'll print off copies for us. So that's kind of interesting to go through those. You get a sense of, just maybe real quick, I will tell you, if you're all looking at that still, if you go back to the first page. So after Dearborn, there's a whole series of properties in Falls Brook. And that's the series of properties that no one's really taking care of. They came to the town for various reasons. Waterworks back in the 30s, because we used to get our drinking water from Falls Brook. We acquired some with the open space bond. Some of it was through a subdivision, came to the town. So that's the whole series of properties that I've been encouraging us to try to consolidate and create a conservation area of Falls Brook. So we don't have all these separate properties, and take some ownership in stewarding that because nobody is doing anything. They're just sitting there. And it's a huge, I mean, it's not a huge chunk, but it's a pretty nice chunk of both sides of Falls Brook. If we tie it into the Piscassic River Loisel. So I've been itching to write a grant, but we're waiting until maybe next year. And the Rosa Property hopefully will be done, so that will feed into that as well. And then if you go to the next page, there's also another little interesting, at the top it says Leda Lane. So there are a zillion lots that came to the town through a tax forfeiture. So one parcel was given to the town, but then the rest were forfeiture. And that's another one where I've said, let's collapse the tax maps, the lot numbers into one and make it a Leda Lane conservation area. It's small and it's kind of wet, but it's in an area of town that's underserved from a conservation perspective. So I thought that might be, so we're kind of waiting. Bart has that memo. We actually approved that as a conservation commission maybe a year or two ago. So sort of waiting for the process to go through the town.
Well, what advantage does one get by consolidating something?
So it's just really confusing because it's actually house lots that essentially went bankrupt. So there's like 30 house lots, and so when you look at the tax parcel map, or you're trying to do steward a property, you've got 30 lots. You don't have 30 lots out there on the ground, but on paper you do, and so it's just more it's much more efficient. Like if you go for grants or something, you don't have to say, well, we've got these 30 lots.
Sure.
So instead you have one parcel that's a conservation area.
So what's involved in terms
You go
of
through
cost and time? Do you
It's
need
just going through
legal?
No, it's just a planning board process. You just dissolve the lot lines.
Okay, planning board.
Yeah.
I don't even think you have to go to the planning board. So isn't it a voluntary merger and you just?
I don't know, Bart. I think
Is it different for a town?
he's supposed to go, or the town council. I don't know. It's in the.
It's municipality that's supposed to go.
So we could ask the planning board.
Well, it's internally, and it's with Bart right now, so we should.
Yeah.
But you can ask Bart, like where.
Yeah.
I pester him too. So anyway, I think that would be a nice thing, and we could do even like a little trail there. And again, it's in an underserved part of town. It's over by 108. Yeah, and the rest are just things we've done. There's a little different sizes. So anyway, I don't necessarily want to go through all those, but if you go then to the fourth page, so those are what we call fee-owned properties. So the town of Newmarket owns them. We don't technically own property as a conservation commission. It's the town of Newmarket that owns them, but we are stewarding. We steward them. On the third page are the conservation easements that we hold. Again, the town holds them, but we as the Conservation Commission oversee the monitoring. We have Bald Hill Reservation, which this is kind of interesting to go through because we do need to monitor those once a year. And we'll be doing that in the next month or two. So I'll tell you about them, and I will probably, some of them I already have been doing. Juli was doing one, and David was doing one, and both of them are off the commission now. So I've done all of them before, so I will probably do all of them this fall, but I would love if anybody wants to join me.
I would.
We'll go through them, and then you can, if you're interested, I'll just keep you on the list, and I can email you. I can just email everybody like, oh, we're going to go do this one today. So Bald Hill Reservation is owned by CELT. It's part of a subdivision that the Hayden Place subdivision off Bald Hill Road. So we don't, so it's 21 acres, and we monitor it and send a report to CELT. There's no other entity involved in that particular conservation easement, so it's actually kind of a simple one from our perspective. And then Hilton is Wynn Hilton, who was on the commission years ago, owns one of the oldest houses in town on Grant Road. and he conveyed his put an easement on his property back in 2004. So we hired CELT to monitor that. They've been doing it for a while, partly because I think we started that, Jeff, you may know, because Wynn was on the Conservation Commission, so it's not really great if you're monitoring, somebody's property. It's actually really hard for any of us to monitor private properties because they're our neighbors, they're our townsfolk, and that's why it's helpful to have a third party. I feel. I do them, but I do them because I've done them professionally, so it's worked out a little bit, but that's why I've sort of encouraged some of these to be parceled out to CELT. So they do that one. And we can go with them as well. They let us know when they go to monitor, and so we can participate. So if you're interested in a particular property, you can walk that property. Smith Sisters is owned by New Hampshire Audubon off of Wadley Falls Road. That's kind of a cool property. It's a very big property. It goes all the way back to Falls Brook and across. So it doesn't abut the Rosa property, but there's just one property in between. Pretty cool. Nostrum Farm is out off Doe Farm Lane, and it just sold. Oh, I didn't update. Maybe yours is updated. That's a new owner. Very nice people. And again, we have CELT monitor that one for us. So one of the things you do when you do a conservation easement is you do what's called a baseline documentation report. So we will do one for the Rosa property, presuming it goes through. And it just tells you, okay, this is the condition of the property when the property has been conserved. And so you every monitoring visit, you sort of judge what the deed says, but also, okay, what was the baseline? This baseline was done in, again, 2006, the Nostrum Farm, and it was, let's just say it wasn't very good. It's not very helpful, I should say that. And now that we have a new owner, brand new young family owning it, and so I thought it was a good time. You can update that, so it's called the current conditions report. So I just completed that for this property. Met with the new owners and very nice people, and I walked all the boundaries and took photos, and so we have a current conditions report.
Wasn't that one that we walked?
Yeah. So there were some complicating features about that property. Is one of the reasons why I wanted to update the current conditions. There's a couple driveways on the north end that were never documented and stuff like that. So the one thing about conservation easements is different than fee-owned properties. For the fee-owned properties, those are public properties. So all the documents pretty much associated with them are public documents. So we can put them on our website unless there's a third-party encroachment that's private. But for the most part, that all information is available. We can put it on our website. I've tried to put some of it. I haven't quite completed that process. Conservation easements, those are private properties, and so we can put the deed because that's a public piece of information, the survey. But usually, like current conditions reports, I think actually CELT does record those, so that's interesting. But we tend to keep some of that information more not on the website because sometimes it contains private information. Like the monitoring reports, we don't put those up on the website. Piscasset Greenway, Gaziano Tract, so that's part of CELT's big property out there. They protected a grassland, and so we hold the easement on that, although it's complicated because they do that, they monitor that one. The Piscasset Greenway is a little bit complicated. And then Schneer and Silverman. Schneer was the father of Gene Silverman, and they conserved their properties at the same time. I've been monitoring those. They're pretty easy to monitor. They're off at the end of Neal Mill Road. Gene Silverman sold her property to Joffrey Barnett, so he's been the new owner for a number of years. She thought she sold her father's pieces to him too, but she didn't, and so those have been in probate. But CELT just recently acquired them through that probate process. So they now own Schneer, and Joff owns Silverman, but we hold the easements on both. That doesn't change. When the owners change, the easement doesn't change in terms of our responsibilities. Hope that makes sense. So those are, and then we separately, the state holds an easement on the Wigan Farm Conservation Area, which the town owns, and they hold a conservation easement on the Deer Barn property, which we own, and so they monitor those two and send us the reports. And some of these properties, because of the funding sources, again, LCHIP or drinking water, you have to send and NRCS for the NOSM, you have to send the reports to them. So should be in the notes who gets what, when, for which property. That's why I tell people to have some contractor keep track of them. The easement monitoring can get a little screwy, so, yeah. Fortunately, we've never really had any major problems. That's when it gets, you got to figure out the process. Because we're a town and we've never, like a problem would be like if a third-party encroachment, they're cutting trees or they're driving their ATV across. We've had some minor encroachment stuff, but mostly we haven't had a problem. Or the owner is clearly vitally, build a house or, build a shed or something. Then, we've never really had to deal with that, so we don't really have a process. So we'd probably talk to our town manager, probably our police chief, and figure out what we do. But so that's something to think about. The third category of ownership is called an executory interest. And so this is where we don't own, we don't hold the easement or the fee. It's an executory interest such that if for some reason the easement holder goes belly up, then we have an ability to step in. It's a nice way for towns to have an owner, they do call it an ownership piece, because if we give money, the town attorneys, town people like to think we have some ownership in the property. We have some say at some point if need be, but we don't have the responsibility of stewarding it or monitoring the easement, so it's an executory interest. So we have that for the Richmond property, for the Dodds property, for the Clark Farm, and one tract of Piscasset Greenway, because we gave some funds to those. So those are there. And then I think I just mentioned on the next page, it's the Crow and the Piscasset River Lazelle LCHIP holds an easement there, so they require a report as does DES. So those are the four categories kind of related to fee ownership and easements, and then there's we just gave you the list. Actually, I think it's separated by some other documents, but there's a list of like fishing games, properties and easements, and then there's a list of subdivision open spaces. It was just to give you an idea of all the conserved land that we have in Newmarket, and it does correspond to a map that we're hopefully going to get at some point, but it's not quite ready. So that was a mouthful, but I wanted to have all the spreadsheets. And I think further on, somewhere in your notebook, there's also the subdivision open spaces. Is everybody familiar with those? What that means? So we have a subdivision open space, what do you call it, zoning. You can do a cluster subdivision in our zoning, and then you conserve the open space. And the way it's worked is that open space typically has been owned by the people in that subdivision collectively, and then they have an HOA. So we have nobody has any responsibility for subdivision open spaces except the HOA. There's no enforcement. There's no. They're kind of weird, to be honest. I mean, I think even people that live in subdivision with it's very common to have HOAs, but they're not easy to figure out. So the nice thing, the Bald Hill Reservation, which we started with, that we hold the easement on, SELT owns that. So that is an open space subdivision. But instead of keeping the property for all the homeowners that live on Hayden Place, they gave it to SELT. Think the ideal way to do it is that a separate entity holds the conservation easement. Because, homeowners, you gotta all agree, I think it's complicated.
You gotta stay there the rest of
I don't
your
want to live in
life.
an
You
HOA.
can't move 'cause people-
If anybody lives in an HOA, but they're complicated, I think. And so anyway, but we have a lot of them. And I think they're trying to change the zoning a little bit around that. Jeff, is that?
Not that
No?
I've heard.
No? I know that, what was the woman who came in? She didn't really like open space subdivisions.
Ivy Van?
Ivy, yeah, she didn't like that.
Oh,
Anyway.
yeah, no, I mean, we have not entertained changing the zoning
Change it.
around that.
Yeah, okay.
Or the ordinance around,
Yeah.
or the subdivision
Yeah,
regs.
okay.
Can I ask 2 questions on this, super quick?
Absolutely.
Smith Sisters?
Yeah.
Is that just the land in Newmarket, or is that both the land in Newmarket and?
No,
in
it should be in Durham too.
the
Oh,
115?
yeah, no, it's the whole thing.
Okay.
Because we hold the easement on the whole thing. Durham doesn't have, again.
Right, so the only thing I would suggest in the future, if you get a chance, or whoever maintains it, I think only the map and lot for Newmarket is there.
Oh, good point, yep.
Just so someone's trying to track it down in, like you say, 30
Good,
years
good.
or something.
Yep. I'll make a note, thank you.
I will say parenthetically, this is a lot of information. I think it could be, my idea of fun would be to take all these papers and just get in the car on a wonderful day like this, when there's a little more foliage, drive around and just see at least where are these properties interweaving and lacing together in Newmarket. It could be a spectacular day. But also tipping my hand so you don't feel bad, we're all in this together. Ellen sent me a quick message about something or another, and it was going to be PR-L, blah, blah, and this and that, and this and that. And I was like, oh my God, I have no business being on the Conservation Commission. I don't know what PR-L is. Ah! And as after I wrote it, it said, and PRL, question mark. I realized, I hit send, now I look silly. It's Piscassic River -Lozelle. I never say river, I just say Piscassic Lozelle. And I don't know what you felt like when you read that. You probably thought, well, I don't know, there's too many acronyms or something, but it's a ton of information. So no matter how long you're here, you'll find your niche and you'll find those things that you say, I just can't absorb it all, so.
Yeah, no, I'm not expecting to absorb it, I just want to, I think it's helpful just to kind of get at least a sense of what's here.
Oh, it's
So,
spectacular.
I'm just zipping along. So, section 4 is about easement monitoring, and so, we had, when Tom,
Collins?
no, Tom, what's his last name? Tom Jones, sorry. When Tom Jones was on,
Oh, Jones, yeah.
he was sort of coordinating, I had him take over sort of coordinating the easement monitoring, so we wrote up a little blurb about if somebody wanted to do that. This is the information related to that. It's kind of what I'm doing currently. And then I have an example of a monitoring form, monitoring report, so a form that you can fill out. This just happens to be for the Smith Sisters, one I did a few years ago. So this is kind of what they look like. You get a sense of what a monitoring report looks like. I've just been doing some training with the Southeast Land Trust, and they're making this, most of theirs now are all digital. And you can use some apps on your phone, so that's pretty cool. So if we ever think people want to do this and want to get into easement monitoring, we could do some training around that kind of stuff. It's actually, I find it very fun. Use a compass, and it's just fun. This is stuff Jeff does a lot, so he's very familiar with it. But and then there's a copy of the contract. So we do contract with Southeast Land Trust every year for monitoring, and they're doing 3 properties for us. So that's just a copy of the contract. So you kind of get a sense of what that's like. Section 5. What's Section 5? Oh, so there's also, I can't remember where they are, but the UNH Extension has some really good publications, and 2 of which are related to conservation easements. One is about how you monitor an easement, and one is outdoor skills, which are related to if you're doing field work, whether it's on fee properties or easements, how to use a compass, how do you read a survey, all that kind of stuff. So those are in those 2 handouts, which should be in one of your pockets somewhere in the book. Section 6 is a printout of every property, and I think that's one of the packets the new people or the old people got with the update of those sheets. And yeah. So beyond that, there is something called a flyer called Pathways for People in Nature, and this is something we put together as a commission a few years ago with Bart, the planning department. Kind of like some goals for us in terms of conservation and priorities for some of the work we do. So that's in there. And then, I'm not quite sure why, I guess it fits with that. Then there's a couple other, there's 3 more documents in section 6. One's called a land acquisition criteria evaluation, and so this was put together as part of the open space plan update that we did a year ago, or 2 years ago, whenever we did that. And this is so, if somebody comes to us, or we look at a piece of property, we need some criteria to know, is this something we really want to either 1, spend money on, and 2, take on the responsibility for stewardship, whether it's a fee, ownership, or an easement. And so we developed this criteria. There's no numbers associated with these criteria, so it's more as a, sort of a subjective thing. But at least, if you check off, like, at least 50% or 75% or 100%, then you know it's, if you've only gotten 20% of the check marks, you know, it's like, yeah, this might not be good. And the reason it's particularly helpful sometimes is sometimes it doesn't happen a lot anymore in Newmarket, but sometimes people want to give you properties. It happened probably more when developers were doing subdivisions and they didn't want this piece over here, they didn't want that piece over there, and they give you this little dinky piece that's all wetland and it's like an acre and you can't do anything with. So that's where you might go through and say, you know, no, we actually don't really want that. You can't do anything with it anyway. Why don't you give it to the person who lives right next door? Like, put it on to somebody else's. So, wouldn't you say that would be one of the reasons?
That's a
Jeff,
fair summary, yeah.
we would use it for? Yeah.
We used it for Rosa.
We use it for Rosa, so now anytime we do a project, we use this and put that in the file. And it does help with grants again. So when you go to a grants, and you can say, yeah, we have an open space plan, this is in our focus area, and we've gone through all these criteria, and it hits all these particular things. The next two documents, actually Tom Jones helped put together. One of the things that towns also have not been very good about, particularly in the past, is requiring a boundary survey when they take on a property. And it becomes very painful later when you're trying to do stuff or you're trying to figure out, geez, is that house on our property? Is it on that property? And we have a bunch that don't have surveys or complete surveys. And so this was just sort of a guidance. And Jeff, I don't know if we ever had you review this, but this is to give a surveyor who you're getting a quote from to say, these are the things that we need or want. And it's just a draft, so it probably at some point would need some work. And then the next one is a draft. I talked about the current condition report. This is kind of a contents for a baseline documentation report, so a lot to it. So it does start to give you a perspective of what's involved with taking on land stewardship and easement monitoring, and that's really important because, you know, land trusts have certain priorities and they can take on some of the bigger stuff, but we as a town, we're gonna, you know, we step down, right? We step down to some of the other criteria, and so it's really good to have some process. And then section 7 is different resolutions and codes in town. We did ask the town to reclassify 2 roads that were class 6 roads a couple years ago, so Old Lee and Neal Mill, and they did that, so those resolutions are there. We can talk about those later at some point if you're interested in the difference between all that. The third, I don't know where it is in your packet, but there's a resolution from 2009 that combines the Conservation Commission, Open Space Commission, and Tree Committee, which is something we should revisit at some point because the Open Space Commission did dissolve, and that makes sense. And we're going to use up all that money, hopefully with the Mitchell property. So that combining with the Conservation Commission is totally fine because we're doing the same thing. The Tree Committee, we're apparently the Tree Committee. And this happened because there was a particular council member who thought we should be a tree city or a tree, remember?
Tree City, USA.
Yeah, Tree City. And so somehow it came to, were you on the Conservation Commission?
I was on the commission then when we became a tree city. Yeah,
I don't think
it was a project of Jim Berger.
Yes.
I was involved in a teeny bit, but it involved planting literally a tree at Newmarket public property that was adjacent to the high school.
We should revise this. I do not think we want to be the tree. You know what
Tree
that,
City, it gives
this
us,
is where the Tree Committee, and the only reason it says oversee the planting and care of trees within the downtown and on public properties. You know what that means? That means taking care of hazard trees and so forth.
No.
We do not want
I'm just talking about the Tree City reference.
No, I know. I'm
wasn't-
just saying that we should
Yeah.
revisit this resolution and change it because I think that's a responsibility
be
that
sued.
the Conservation Commission doesn't want.
No.
And tree inventory is interesting, but not full-blown tree committee.
And appoint one from the membership to the position of tree warden.
That's
That's
a
the
huge amount of
DPW
work.
director.
That's
We
a-
do not want to be that. So anyway, Chris, you may want to put that on our agenda at some point. I think that should be.
Yeah, I wasn't on when we combined them. I was on just after.
Yeah,
when Jim was
that one
Drop
needs to be
them.
done.
do the Tree
Anyway.
City.
Anyway, I just bring that up because it was a little bit of a pet peeve of mine, like, jeepers, I don't really want that. So anyway, the other ones are just stuff you can read through. One of them is about dogs. It's another one we should probably revisit about, do we want to make different recommendations on whether dogs should be off-leash? Because some properties, they're allowed to be off-leash by right, according to the code. and some you have to have on leash, and it's really becoming a big thing in the seacoast with dogs on trails and maybe on
I
leash,
think
off
they
leash. So
should not
at some point we
carte
should
blanche be off
revisit that,
leash.
probably.
Well, and there's so much research that's different, not research, the body of knowledge has changed about seasonal birds and when our birds and killdeer
Yeah.
nesting and
Also,
so much more we know and subscribe to or are aware of now.
I think I mean, throw it out again, I think I say this like every 3 or 6 months, that like originally when I was on the commission, there was a lot of kind of like old timers from town that were on the commission, and they were very into preserving certain aspects of certain properties for certain uses, such as hunting. And so if you required dogs to be on leash on that property, you couldn't do certain kinds of hunting, like water, like duck hunting, perhaps.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
So-
that's important.
So it's,
I mean,
I think you
yeah.
can word that, though, because there's, yeah.
you probably can, yeah, 100%, I'm just throwing that out
Yeah,
there.
yeah, no, I get that, yeah.
Brian, thank you.
Not to rush anyone, I just want to point out, it's like 8:50, so.
I was just going to mention that in the interest of time. We try and end by 9 o'clock for the new people. Sometimes we just can't. We say, hey, there's 2 more things, or is it okay to stick around, or do you want to carry them over to next time? So,
I'm just going to wrap up one thing, because there's a set of maps that you should have, and we're waiting on one more map, which is the conserved land map. And so that goes in section 8. That's it.
wow, that's a great book.
Thank
Oh, you
you.
have some bookmarks and some other fun stuff.
Thank you.
The planning board meetings, if at the bottom of the agenda, ours say our stop time, and it was 10. But we were told that the rule is if you want to go beyond the published stop time, you have to vote.
Yeah.
So that's
You technically don't have to vote for more time after 9 here, but I do have to go to work tomorrow.
We don't have we just have a convention that it's just polite to kind of get things done, but, okay, financial summary, Ellen,
Oh, gosh.
if you can do it.
Let me just do it quick. Okay, the only really big news, I think, the usual stuff. I'm just going to point out that we are getting more current use money. So apparently on Neal Mill Road, Sharon Tucker, I think it's her property, she owned 2 acres that she took out of current use. And I'm surprised at how much it is, so we're getting $11,875 from that, which means that's half of what the current use penalty is, or tax, however you want to phrase it. What the town does is they invoice it, so we actually don't have the money yet, but they've actually they credit our account, even though I don't think the money is there. But anyway, apparently we can say it's there. So our overall budget, our overall balance for the entire conservation fund plus Schanda is $150,294.77. So we may continue to get a little bit of current use money as these things happen. So that's great. So that helps us rebuild some of the funds that we're spending out on projects.
So, do we start to get interest as soon as it goes
It's a good
in?
question. I assume so. I'm not sure how that works because I don't think the money's there, but it seemed to. But I don't know. They have, this, I'm not an accountant. I don't understand that. I don't understand the spreadsheets. So I just extract the information that's useful
No,
to me.
thank you, I was just curious.
But I actually don't know.
It's there, but it's not there, so.
Yeah, I don't know. If our interest jumps up quite a bit, maybe it is there. Yeah, so I think that's enough. General fund, we haven't really spent much out of it, so that's about what it is.
So in the interest of time, let's backpedal this a little bit. Let's X, closing comments, looking forward, and new business, because we sort of covered item B of new business earlier in this meeting. We can talk next month with more from George about energy and environment connecting, and a couple of those things I can send out an idea format to help you think a little bit about it in a group email. Let's try and get through these committee and board reports. Town Council, Brian.
Yep. Chase Eagleson was applied to the position that was opened when Councilor Colin White, he moved, so he had to resign. Chase Eagleson's now on the Town Council. The only other thing that might be of interest is that Rockingham is currently experiencing a moderate drought, but Newmarket has drilled enough wells that it is not at the moment impacting us.
Thank you. Jeff, what do you have from Planning Board?
I think think everyone will be most interested. We did review the land and water chapter in our special session or workshop prior to the meeting, and Kyle Pimentel was there to present. Did a good job. The planning board was very supportive of the chapter. There were, we did talk about it for about a half an hour, but nobody said, "What were you thinking?" Or the one big question I had that came out of it, and I don't remember the resolution of, was I know we updated the open space prior to this, kind of in anticipation to help with this, right? And that plan, my question was, so it was presented to us, that's a very highly detailed plan, which can be very useful for a lot of different aspects. And it was kind of like pared way down to fit into the land use chapter, land and water chapter, and it'll be added as an appendix. So my question was, are we going to continue to update that more concise document, or the more detailed document in the future, or only update the master plan? I don't know if it was discussed when it was, because they didn't have an answer then. They're like, that's interesting. Yeah. Not sure if the thought was to continue to even utilize an open space plan, or was just to defer to the master plan moving forward.
Yeah, I think the open space plan was partly for our benefit of conservation commission specifically, and it was done once because it was grant funding. It was done this time again because there was funding to update it. But I don't think there's any conversation about how often it should be updated.
But yeah, like I said, it was well received, without a lot of questions or ads, requests for reworks or anything like that. So, and we definitely went on to talk more about changes to site plan, subdivision, zoning. I won't, in the interest of time, I won't. There's a fairly lengthy video that folks could probably watch if they want all the detail on that one, but we didn't really get into anything too much to do with Conservation Commission, that would be, except like you have to show flood zones on subdivisions for parcels over certain sizes, which you had to do anyway. But it's just, yeah, it's a modification of ordinances that touch on conservation slightly, but they were already covered in other parts of the ordinance. Shuffling of things.
Thank you. George, anything from Energy and Environment? I know you couldn't attend another last time, but.
Yeah. Energy and Environment Committee met. I was not there, but Joe is aware that I'll be stepping in as the liaison between these two commissions, the commission and the committee, so I'll have updates next time.
Nice. And we'll talk to you next time a little bit about some things that we could do or we'd like to do with Energy and Environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some combining some forces there.
Yeah, my understanding is there's going to be some eager for collaboration, so look forward to discussing that next time.
Thank you.
Actually, can I throw one more thing back super quick? That one thing that was brought up is we are going to have Mark West is going to come present probably at our next meeting, the prime wetlands map to the planning board. One member did ask about why we didn't entertain adding salt marshes to it. So Mark will be asked that question and kind of ask what kind of impact, or if we should go, like the difference between remapping and readoption, and if we add to it, like the changes in law since they were adopted the first time, how that might impact, like, so the commission might be interested in that, but that's something we plan on kind of asking Mark about.
We didn't do salt marsh in the first version of Prime Wetlands, and I think he said, I asked him about that when we were doing the project, and he said, because he feels like they already have the shoreline protection for salt marsh.
Yeah.
But it's a good question to ask, yeah. It could be a separate effort to further protect.
And I don't know, and they also asked if we looked at all the other wetlands in town to see if any should be added. And my only 2 cents was, I know the laws are different now than they were then, and if you re-adopt the whole thing, and now you're subject to the current laws, so they may say, this used to qualify and it no longer qualifies under state law, and blah, 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 so.
Well, I don't think there'll be any new ones. I think he just, he redid the boundaries of all the ones that were adopted before.
Right, that's what I'm saying, like,
Yeah.
did the town look in, the question was, did the town look into adding more? And if you do you have to re-adopt the entire thing? So,
Yeah. I think he picked out the most important ones the first time.
yep.
Emma, as our school, thank you, Jeff. Emma, as our school liaison. Thank you.
So we just got back from this school. We're on our third week right now, and we're kind of just planning ahead for the rest of the year. But the biggest thing that I have for all of us is kind of, we just kind of want to be more involved in the town than we were last year. So not even just within the conservation committee, but in the town as a whole. So if like volunteers are needed, throughout the entirety of fall, we go around the town of Newmarket to rake leaves for people's yards who aren't able to and stuff like that. So that's something that we do club-wise for National Honor Society. In our bylaws, members are required to get 30 hours of volunteer work a year. So if there's anything that you guys can think of, we're always looking for more opportunities to share with the group. And then our environmental team is kind of just looking at the year ahead, planning out what we want to do. But other than that, I don't have any.
Nice, and I will say, as a tantalizer looking forward, we'd very much like the school, I say the school, you and your clubs and your interest, and you as our liaison, to be working with some things with energy and environment and us. And I know there's so many things going on with Dr. Alexander and the clothing swaps and the idea and publicity we could get out about fabrics not going into the garbage stream and whatnot, so be prepared.
Definitely.
We can get her busy, right? Yep. Beautiful. And thank you for being here again this year with us. It's huge for us. Thank you. Anything else for the interest of the group?
What's happening with Ash Swamp Road project? Is anything moving forward on that?
So as far as I know, this is the culvert improvement to help turtles across and so forth. So the state got the America the Beautiful grant approval, which there's four projects under that, and we're at the town, we're one of those. I think it's just moving through the process, grant process at the federal level and the state level. As far as we know, I talked to Lindsay about a week ago, and she said as far as she knows, it's working its way through. The ARM funding, which is the state grant program, did not come through because the federal folks didn't agree with what the state were doing. So anyway, apparently we didn't quite make that cut. So, but the America the Beautiful money, my understanding is that's enough to do the project. So, and there's a Nature Conservancy grant that Lindsay's working with them about the initial scoping and engineering, I think.
So it's moving forward?
They're working on it, I think. Yeah.
We've moved roughly, 75 to 100 little turtles out of our driveway this year so far. And there are so many.
How was the
Tons.
roadkill?
For the little ones, it's hard
No,
to
for
s-
adults.
Oh, for adults. So my wife saw 2 live landings make it this year, actually. And she said she always sees 2 to 3 personally, so she feels it was an actually normal year for them. I didn't see any spotted turtles, but she saw a couple spotted. And roadkill that we found was predominantly sun turtle.
Was predominantly what then?
I said
Painted?
sun turtles, but
Painted?
painted turtles, sorry.
Yeah.
I used the other common name, painted turtles. So we didn't see any dead landings this year. So, yeah, or might have been one spotted that was seen hit. But,
You live right next to where they're proposing the culvert?
yeah, it's almost on my property, part of the causeway.
That's great. It's good to hear that it's potential project in the making.
Water is extremely low this year. It's hard to put them in. I go
Yeah.
to the culvert and kind of drop them a few feet down into the water, but it's all like super mud. They climb back up on the road, sometimes get run over.
Oh, I have sort of one quick update, sorry. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the the Southeast Land Trust is starting a timber harvest on the Piscasset Greenway.
I was going to bring that up.
On probably next week. And so the trucks will be going in Neal Mill Road, so our access point, and the landing will be in the field. So they'll go in, you know how you go up and there's that nice little hill with that beautiful sugar maple? So they won't go up over there, they'll go into the field and down, and the landing will be down in the field. And they'll be logging just on the east side of the whole drainage system, right? So they'll go in on Neal Mill, and they'll go a little bit toward the boardwalk, but not very close, because they have to stay away from the wetland, and they'll go all the way up to Otis Hill, which is all the way toward Halls Mill Road. So it could be into November, so it'll be a while. And so Obviously, they can't close, not going to close Neal Mill or Halls Mill because of the Class A trails, but the trail into the boardwalk and the Otis Hill Trail will be closed until November.
And during something that we were talking about, I flashed on the idea that maybe the feather flags should be orange, like blaze orange, since some of the things we do would be out in a field or out in a meadow, or you're driving by and here's the sign and here's the driveway that you turn into and here's what you're going to go do out in a field. Because that would be visible any time of the year, and is very attention-getting.
Orange and black is monarchs, and all the milkweed things are all orange and black.
They're all orange and black, yeah. There's an aesthetic to it, too. So is there any interest in saying, like, you know what, we had blue as aesthetic and this and that and this and that, but blaze orange could be really another side effect of the idea of safety out in, I don't know by heart when the various hunting seasons are, but it sure is visible. And,
Good idea.
yeah, it just came when people were mentioning things. It was like ding, 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 orange. All right. And I'm just going to pass this out. This is an article I wrote. It was last year in the Concord Monitor, but I thought it was interesting to share because it gives a little insight of some of the ways I think the Conservation Commission is leaning. We're talking a lot about education and the importance of getting people outdoors. It's just a project, it's a project I've been working on, and then another group has taken this project on where I'm going to consult about the importance of getting outdoors. So, relaxing reading.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And parting note, do look at the website and figure out how you can sign up for the e-news, because there's things in there that I would also at some point think, right now I've been writing the weekly columns, but other people can certainly get either an idea to write, an idea that you want to see in that e-news, or an idea that you yourself would like to write in the e-news, or photographs. It's nice. It's digital now, so it's really nice. The photos come out really nicely. So when you have seen these turtles on your property, or when you have a group of students that are okay to be photographed, let's see some things so that we can put out there and share with the readership about what's going on from the eyes of conservation. Motion to adjourn. I'm sorry, anything else?
I was going to make the motion to adjourn.
Oh, okay, let's start again. Anybody have a motion that would be to adjourn?
I have one.
Jeff?
So moved.
Do I have a second? A third, a fourth, a fifth, a unanimous? Yay! It's wonderful to see you all.